and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we gather around the virtual water cooler to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, all sorts of good stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, you can't have all sorts of good stuff without the man himself. Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett is here. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
John, it's another Friday, which seems like every other Friday that's happened over the last 4 months, but I'm still having a good time. I hope you are too.
I am having a good time. Thank you very much. It's good for us to get back here to the show as well. And listen, guys, there is a lot of stuff, a lot of ground that we need to cover today. And we will get to that in just a second. So here's how today's show is going to go. First half of the show, we're going to talk about a bunch of items that have come up in the world of movie news and entertainment news. Second half of the show, we're going to take your live questions and your live comments. You can get a live question or comment on the show simply by using the tip link in the top of the description of this video. You can just click on that, or you can manually enter it in at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show, and you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. So guys, with all that down, let's get into some stuff right off the top. And the first thing we're going to start off with is this. You know, one of the biggest and longest running bits of drama going on in the world of film over the past going on 3 years is the tale of New Mutants. New Mutants with a bunch of kids, young X-Men kids, that by the time this movie opens, they will be bringing their grandchildren to the premiere. It has been a long time. It is supposed to open at the end of August. I wouldn't hold my breath. I don't think it's going to open at the end of August. However, at the upcoming virtual Comic-Con, we're going to have a panel for New Mutants where I'm going to guess they're going to announce a delay in the date again. But they also dropped like a little bit under a minute teaser, a new teaser for the New Mutants. Now, listen, I have enjoyed what I have seen coming out of New Mutants so far. I've liked what we've seen, and I'm excited to see it. This little teaser was the best piece of marketing they have put out to date. It was short, but I feel like in this one, like 50-second teaser, we got more of an understanding of what the story's kind of about. We definitely got some bigger highlight moments and flashes of excitement in it and all that kind of, and everything else. I got to tell you, Rob, I saw this little spot and I thought it was just fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And my anticipation level, which was already fairly big for this movie, has just gone up a few more notches. Rob, I know you had a chance to see this little teaser. What did you think of it?
I'm with you. I'm very, very, very excited for this movie. We've been talking about it for a long time. The fact that they're adapting the Demon Bear storyline when Bill Sienkiewicz moved over and started drawing New Mutants. I mean, it's one of my favorite memories of reading X-Men comics from my youth. And the fact that they chose to focus on that proved to me that they knew what they were doing. And every time, like the first time we saw Ilyana Rasputin with the Soul Sword, which was in the last trailer, I'm like, in. And this one, even though it was quick, dude, it looks exactly like what I wanted from this movie. And just give it to me, John. Give it to me. Why can't I have this? Everything else is, we get everything else. I just want this. Please give this to me. Give it to me now.
Yeah, and again, we're supposed to be getting it in August. You know, a lot of people speculated that it was going to drop on Disney Plus, but I don't believe it can drop on Disney Plus. I think if it goes to streaming, the first place it's got to go is to HBO. But Disney doubled down. They say, nope, we're committed to this movie. They gave it a new theatrical release date. I'm not even sure we're going to get it in 2020. I think it might get pushed to 2021, but I mean, who knows? We'll find out at this Comic-Con panel that this virtual Comic-Con panel they're going to do, and we'll find out. Question for you guys is simply this. What did you think of this little teaser for New Mutants? I thought it was really good. What are your thoughts? Did it increase your excitement for it? Do you think we're even going to get it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's go to another off the top, and that is this. You know, the Russo brothers, once they were done with Endgame, they spun off out of the MCU and they started their Agbo production company. I'm going to admit, while I love the Russo brothers, I'm not thrilled with their start so far with Agbo. Their first one they came out with was with 21 Bridges with MCU alum Chadwick Boseman. That was a bad movie. They did not do a great job with that movie. That one didn't work out so well. Then they did, and Rob, I forget the name of it, but the Chris Hemsworth film that they did on Netflix, the military, where he's the military dude. I'm forgetting the name of it. Extraction. Thank you. Which I was excited about, and the action in that film is fantastic. But I thought it was a pretty weak movie. I thought it was, other than fantastic, mind-blowing action, I thought it was really weak. So I haven't been thrilled with Agbo's outing so far. Well, strap in, guys, because it just came out this morning that we are getting Netflix's most expensive movie ever. Netflix, of course, their subscribership just went up a bunch because of the pandemic, and they are doubling down on that, really trying to take advantage of this momentum. And they just committed $200 million to produce a new movie starring Ryan Gosling, another good Canadian kid, Ryan Gosling, and Chris Evans in an adaptation of the novel The Gray Man. Now, The Gray Man, if you think you remember the name of that, that's because a couple of years ago, there was talks about Brad Pitt using that as a vehicle. That kind of fell by the wayside. Now we've got this. Now, apparently it's about a super spy assassin who's being chased by another super spy assassin. Okay, we've heard that before. It's been done. But that doesn't stop it from sounding pretty intriguing, especially when your two leads are Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans. Rob, when you look at something like this and you look at Netflix, which earlier this year was talking about maybe reducing how much they're going to be spending in original programming a little bit because, they're $15 billion in debt. There's only so much you can spend. And they talked a little bit earlier this year about reducing. And maybe they are. But that's not stopping them from going for some big, high-profile stuff to really take advantage of this, especially with Disney Plus is out there now. Peacock just launched. HBO Max just launched. We got Amazon Prime is killing it with their original stuff, and they got that little Lord of the Rings thing coming at the same time. You got Hulu out there, which is actually one of my favorite streaming platforms and all that kind of stuff. So Netflix is finding themselves in a place now that they even need to do more to stand out from the crowd. An action film that is a $200 million blockbuster with Ryan Reynolds. I keep saying Reynolds. Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans. That's a good way to do it. It may be a financially negative thing for them to do. Like they may end up not actually making money from this, but just it as a flag planted in the ground to say, we are serious about this stuff, guys. There's a lot of other options out there now, but we're serious about this original entertainment stuff. Come on in. It sounds pretty exciting. I'm hopeful because, like I said, I'm a big fan of the Russo brothers. I just have not been a fan of their stuff sans Kevin Feige since Endgame. But I'm hoping this would be the type of vehicle that they can use to turn it around. They love going back to the MCU alum with Chadwick Boseman, Chris Hemsworth. Now they're bringing in Chris Evans, who they have worked with many, many, many times. And they're actually going to be directing this one as well as producing. Rob, you hear about this Gray Man project. What are your thoughts on it?
Dude, if it's anything like Captain America, the Winter Soldier, in terms of its action, I think this could be great. And what a cast. Who doesn't want to watch those two guys try and kill each other? I know that would be kind of fun for me. I'm sure it's going to be wildly entertaining. I still have to say, though, John, when I hear that they're spending this much money on a movie like this, I sure would like to see it in a giant IMAX theater, though. I mean, I know they bought the Egyptian theater. Look, I think I'm going to have to get over my prejudice against not seeing movies in a big theater because I really like seeing, especially movies that are writ large for the big screen. I like to see them in giant auditoriums. And I think, well, maybe, since Netflix did buy the Egyptian theater, that maybe we'll get, I don't know, a special week run of it or something, like a week in theaters, or maybe Netflix will team up with IMAX and it just seems such a shame that they're going to spend $200 million on a movie and we can't see it in a theater.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, but I mean, this is a pretty big move for Netflix right now. It's the type of splash that you want to make, especially with Disney Plus out there that's kind of stalled.
I know.
Like, with Disney Plus stalling and not really Mandalorian, yay! Where's everything else? it's a good opportunity to take advantage of. So we'll see. Question for you guys is simply, what do you guys think about this whole move of theirs? Do you like this idea? Do you think this is bold? Are you excited for it? I know I'm excited for it. I want to see the Russo brothers get back to their form. Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we got one more thing off the top to talk about, and that is this. Now, of course, the best comic book movie of, I believe it was 2018, to me was not Infinity War. To me was not Black Panther. My actual favorite comic book movie and my third favorite movie overall of 2018 was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I never would have thought I would have said that because I thought the movie looked terrible. I didn't even like the idea of them making it, and it ended up being my third favorite film of the year. Anyway, there have been some rumors going around that the character Silk could appear in the next Spider-Verse. Well, it looks like those are rumors no longer, as Lord and Miller, the producers of Spider-Verse, jumped on their social media, and with Phil Lord asking, "My ears aren't big enough or stiff enough for my mask-wearing needs. Any suggestions?" To which Christopher Miller replied with a big image of Silk, pretty much confirming what the speculation and rumors have been, that we would be getting a Silk at some point here. I got to tell you, I love this idea. I love this idea for a couple of reasons. Number one, Silk is a pretty cool character. I believe she's a Korean. I believe she's Korean-American. I believe it's Cindy Moon is a Korean band. Now, basically, for those of you who don't know much about Silk, she was bitten by the exact same spider that bit Peter Parker. So in the story, basically, Peter Parker thought the spider bit him and it died. It didn't die. Twist. It actually crawled off and then bit another person, which was Cindy Moon. She becomes Silk. Mostly the same power set as the regular Spider-Man and stuff like that. And then they go into her story. She was hidden away and then she comes back and all that kind of stuff. Character got introduced in 2014. Character first came up in 2014. And one of the main reasons why I love this is, number one, bringing in a new character. Because if you remember from the first Spider-Verse movie, they basically, all the characters had not only their own unique personalities, they all had their own unique animation style. Every character had a completely different animation style. You had the anime character, you had noir, you had that stuff. And that was great. To see what they do if they bring a new style in for Silk, I think is very good. Expanding the Spider-Verse as it will, really good. So personally, I like this move a lot. Rob, you heard that they're bringing Silk now into the Spider-Verse for the follow-up movie. What do you think about that?
I'm all in on this. I think it's a great move. I like that character. I think that it'll fit in fine. I wonder how they're going to use her. Are they going to be rivals? Are they going to be romantically involved? I think it's intriguing. I'm sure with a story like this, they'll be on opposite. They'll be at loggerheads at first, fighting or something, because all superheroes have to have a misunderstanding and be on opposite sides of the fence before they make up and take on the big bad together. Count me in. Count me in.
I don't think they'll make her a romantic interest, because Amy Pascal's already kind of said that the next one, part of the focus of the next one is going to be the developing romance between Miles and Gwen. So they're probably going to go with that. I don't know. The first Spider-Verse, they brought in a whole bunch of Spider-Men and they never had them versus each other, right? So maybe she just shows up from another one of the multiverse areas and says, "I need help." And maybe there's that. I don't know. Whichever direction they go, I'm curious to see. I just want to see a new Spider-Verse movie because I love that first one so much. Question is, guys, what do you think about this news about them bringing Silk into the Spider-Verse? Jump on down into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. I just hope they're not dropping, Spider-Ham out of it in order to make room for her. That's all I'm going to say. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into that main topic number one. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Gary Middleman, who writes, "Hey, John and team. I was just reading an interview with Chris Evans talking about Marvel and the MCU, and the issue of Marvel movies and Oscars came up. He seems to think more Marvel movies should have got major Oscar nominations. The MCU is my favorite thing in movies, but honestly, I'm not really sure I agree with them. What do you think? Has the MCU been snubbed? Thanks, and have a great day, sir." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, that actually has been a big topic of conversation for a while. Has been ever since, especially once the MCU started finding its real groove and getting all that massive momentum going. Why hasn't there been more Oscar love? Should there have been more Oscar love? And you know, Chris Evans kind of brought that up. And this is what Chris Evans said. He said, look, there is enormous thought and consideration that goes into these story arcs. He ain't wrong. If you take the Marvel moniker off those movies and characters that aren't identifiable from the comic books, these movies would be lauded in that way. I'm not saying everyone's a home run, but they really turn out some really impressive movies. That comes to us from Chris Evans. And look, I don't disagree with Chris Evans. Chris Evans is right. One of the great things that has made Marvel wonderful isn't just that they've had iconic characters up on the screen. Anybody can do that. You give somebody the rights to Marvel characters, great. I can make a movie and put Doctor Doom in it, and I can make a movie and have Captain America in it, and that's fine. The strength of the MCU has always been they've focused first and foremost on making good movies. They have not abandoned the principles of fundamental good storytelling in order just to say, just have Captain Stupendous kicking Dr. Evil Man's ass. You know, they don't do that like a lot of comic book films in previous eras have done. And he's right about that. I still don't know myself, though, Rob, if I buy into the idea that, you know, that they've deserved more Oscar love. And you know what? What's funny about it, when we think about comic book films, we often think about how the Oscars ignore comic book films. But the reality is, Oscars have often given attention to comic book films. And it's not just for like visual effects and things like that. There have been some significant moments in the comic book movies era where Oscars have given some legitimate consideration and legitimate attention to them. For instance, Joker just recently got 11 Oscar nominations. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it got 11 Oscar nominations, which ties, I believe, for the record of most Oscar. I think it's at least the same amount of Oscar nominations that Lord of the Rings Return of the King got. And it won two of them, one of them being for score, and the other being for Best Lead Actor with Joaquin Phoenix. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. Black Panther got 7 nominations at the Academy Awards, including a nomination for Best Picture. First time that had ever happened. It won 3 Academy Awards overall. The Dark Knight, going back a few more years, won 8 nominations at the Academy Awards, winning 2, including the major award for Heath Ledger for Best Supporting Actor. Logan recently became the first comic book movie to get nominated in the major category of screenplay. And and we're not even talking about all the other categories. I mean, this is just a few significant moments. But Rob, I still come back to the fact that, you know, as much as I love the MCU and they're great, for example, for me, I wouldn't have nominated Infinity War for Best Picture. I love that movie. I love it, but I wouldn't have nominated it for Best Picture. I certainly wouldn't have nominated it for Best Picture over Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I thought maybe should have been there. But to Chris's point, I don't know that Chris is making an argument that Marvel deserved more Oscars. I think Chris is making a point that I do agree with, which is Marvel films need to be looked at more seriously than just comic book movies. They are comic book movies, but they are also more than that. And they need to be looked at a little bit more seriously, because I believe he's right, Rob. When you look at these films, there's underlying great narrative, a lot of great character development, and the way Kevin Feige has fit these pieces together to make the overall MCU is nothing short of really impressive. I don't know, Rob, you hear Chris Evans's comments here. What do you think about them?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I've always thought that the Oscar films should be films. Oscar caliber movies are movies that transcend time, transcend the era in which they're released. And while I've loved comic books my whole life. I've loved comic book movies, the era that we're in. I love Infinity War just like you do. I watched that movie more than I'll ever care to admit publicly. I watch it a lot. I just find it wildly entertaining. Same with Endgame. But I just can't, as much as I enjoy it, I can't see an Infinity War being a movie like Lawrence of Arabia, or Gandhi, or something like that. And even I, who wants to see comic book films win awards, I just don't know if I couldn't award a movie like you said, like Infinity War with the Best Picture. I couldn't. Although I could be persuaded to lean more toward a movie like Logan eventually taking the more comic booky in conception, if that makes sense, the less inclined I would be. I would like to see a comic book movie truly transcend the genre, because ultimately they are genre movies. And I think that the best Oscar films, look, Silence of the Lambs was essentially a horror movie, and it transcended the horror genre. It didn't win, but like The Exorcist was nominated, and it transcended its genre as well. And I think that that's what we want from prestige Best Picture winners, is something that becomes greater than the sum of its parts. And I think we're on the road to that. I don't know what I would. I guess I know it when I see it, but I just don't think that I've seen a movie yet that I would award, a comic book movie that I would award Best Picture to yet.
Right. I agree with you about Logan, by the way. Because Logan, to me, what was that, 2017, 2016? I can't remember. But Logan, to me, was the best film of the year. So I certainly thought, but I was thrilled when it got the screenplay nomination, because that had never happened before for a comic book film. And to your point, Logan is exactly that kind of model of a film. It is a comic book movie at its core, but it so transcended just our general understanding of a comic book film. It was heavy drama. It was a Western in many ways. I mean, it just embodied all those things that you're talking about. And I think you're right. I think those examples I brought up are pointing at that between Joker, Black Panther, Spider-Verse, Logan. I think we see that evolution happening, not just with the Oscars recognizing them more, but the movie studios themselves evolving their movies more.
I think so too. I keep going back to, when I think about genre movies, I think about Westerns. And when I saw Unforgiven, which won Best Picture in 92, when I was sitting there as somebody who grew up watching, Bonanza and Gunsmoke and Westerns, when I saw Unforgiven in the theater, I walked out totally blown away. How it was a complete deconstruction of all Western mythology. And when Clint Eastwood says to the Schofield kid, he'll get what's coming to, and he says, we all got it. We all got it coming to us, kid. You knew that movie was something more than just a Western. And yet it was a Western, but it transcended all of those archetypes to become something truly timeless for the ages. And I think one day we will get a comic book movie that does just that. I don't know if it's going to star Superman or Captain America, but maybe it could.
Well, you know what I'm waiting for, Rob? I'm waiting for a trend to happen in the movies, and it's harder to do it in the movies. I know it's harder to do it in the movies, but when you look at the television medium right now with comic book stuff, to me, the absolute best stuff on television right now, comic book wise, has nothing to do with the big popular IPs. Right. Doom Patrol, Umbrella Academy, The Boys. These are the best things in comic book stuff on television right now. And I can't help but wonder, because you just brought it up, right? Like, you don't know if it's going to be a Superman movie or a Captain America movie. I can't help but wonder if once the movies start to embrace, hey, maybe we go back to the old, not doing a sequel, I'm just saying, maybe we go back to the philosophy of the old Will Smith Hitchcock, or it's Hitchcock, right? That's the name of it. Hitchcock movie. What if, let's bring in some completely new stuff, or stuff that nobody knows anything about, and do it really differently. And maybe that'll become the movie that maybe breaks through on that level.
Yeah. Although, I think you're right. There's a comic book. There's a comic book called The Superman for All Seasons. It's a Superman comic that, just like it says, broken into 4 stories. I could see something like that if it was done correctly. If it had the right touch, it could be It could evoke the same kind of feelings in viewers that the Shawshank Redemption does. I don't mean it's like has anything to do with prison, but a Superman for All Seasons is lyrical. It's definitely a Superman story, but it has great emotion to it. And I think if it was pulled off correctly, I could see a Superman for All Seasons winning Best Picture.
All right, guys, the question here for you is this. What did you guys make of Chris Evans's comments? Do you think we are in a season now that we're going to start seeing with the accomplishments of Logan, Black Panther, Joker, Spider-Verse? Do you think we're going to see that happen more? Is it because more that the Oscars are changing, or is it more because the comic book movie genre is evolving even more? What are your thoughts on this overall? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Carter, who writes, did you see an analyst at Disney in The Hollywood Reporter saying that they expect most movie theaters to remain closed until 2021, mid-2021? If that proves to be true, the repercussions seem massive. What would this mean in terms of the future of theaters, and what will happen to all the movies currently being held? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, first of all, Carter, just to correct you, it wasn't an analyst from Disney that said this, but it was an analyst from a big industry company that analyzes the industry and all that kind of stuff. This was the comment that came from a quote in the Hollywood Reporter by Doug Kreutz, who is one of these analysts that a lot of people in this industry take very seriously. And he wrote the following. We had previously assumed that the spread of COVID-19 would be relatively halted by now. Of course he did, because if we weren't a pack of idiots, it would have been. Because we flattened the curve. Remember that? Good times. And then everybody became jackasses and it spiked again. Anyway. Am I a little bit bitter about that? Maybe. I don't know. We assumed that the COVID-19 would have been relatively halted by now with social distancing requirements significantly lessened by late 2020, Kreutz wrote. We have now extended that timeline out to at least mid-2021. The situation remains very fluid, and we do not rule out the possibility that the impact could last even longer. Now, it is important to point out here that this is one analyst, all right? This is one dude, but again, it is from a company that's taken very, very seriously by the studios and by everybody in the industry that is saying this. That is not a definitive thing that theaters are going to stay closed in mid-2021 and all that kind of stuff. I personally still believe they're going to be open before the end of the year. I know. I thought for sure we'd be open by July. I mean, go back to February. I thought, yeah, by July we'll be open up again because, you know, we're intelligent people. We're going to do the smart things. For the most part, we're going to stay at home. When we need to go out, we're going to wear masks. We're not going to get together in big groups. We're certainly not going to pack out bars and beaches and restaurants and whatever. We're certainly not going to do that. I mean, if we go into a restaurant, it'll be one that has social distancing, 6 feet apart, hand sanitizer, mask, blah, blah. But nope, we didn't do it. And now it is spiked with every single day, new record numbers and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I did think we would have been open back up again by July. I thought Tenet months ago was going to hit its July 17th release date. By the way, guys, yay, today is the opening day for Tenet. Today is the opening day for Tenet, ladies and gentlemen. Yay, it's July 17th. And yet here we are. So, Rob, maybe I'm being naive or optimistic. I still don't personally believe that it's going to be till 2021 or even late 2021 for when the movie theaters open again. But you have to at least take warnings like this seriously. What comes to mind, though, is what happens if it is the case? What happens if the movie theaters cannot open again until mid-2021? What are the repercussions of that? And that's the first thing that comes to mind when I read these sobering words. Here's what comes to mind for me. It's going to be a disaster. It is going to be an absolute disaster on several fronts. Not something that, it doesn't mean the movies as we know it will disappear forever. That's not what I'm saying. You know, disasters happen and you get back on your feet and you recover. But this would be a disaster nonetheless. Let's just start with point number one. The first thing you're going to have to understand is that it's not just AMC. AMC will be done. AMC will be dead. Like, just the biggest movie theater exhibitor in the world, like, that is going to disappear. And if you're not short-sighted and you understand how everything is connected, especially in this industry, you start to understand that sense of dread that creeps in about what the dominoes that will fall come into play. Because this movie studios, they make their money in movie theaters. So now, if AMC can't open again to say mid-2021, they're out of business. They're gone. They're dead. That's the number one movie theater chain in the world, is gone. That will affect the studios. But beyond just AMC, let me point this out too. AMC started behind the eight ball because they were in a position of $5 billion in debt, which we've talked about. It was smart debt that they did because they upgraded their theaters. They got their A-list program up and running. They acquired some new locations. Everything would have been great if the pandemic hadn't hit. But they started out behind the eight ball being $5 billion in debt. But make no mistake about it. This shutdown lasting into December, February, March, April, mid-2021, guys, it's not just AMC we're talking about anymore. You think Regal's going to last? You think Regal's going to last having to shut down their business for a year? They're gone. What do you think about Cineworld? For those of our friends in the UK, they're gone. For our friends in Canada, Cineplex, gone. This thing stretches from being a couple of months shutdown, which was dangerous for all of them already, into a year shutdown. We're talking about their very survival. And again, follow the falling dominoes. The theaters are gone. The studios get punched square in the nutsack with Triple H's sledgehammer. It's disastrous. That will then have repercussions of their own. The way that these studios are going to have to look at what can we do, because we can no longer count on a movie making us $300 million in profit. We can no longer count on a movie being a $1.5 billion smash hit, blah, blah, blah. We can no longer count on that revenue. They're going to then have to pivot. Some of the studios in trouble may actually shutter. They may shut down. They go that long. But then you're going to see the studios having to pivot and shrinking their scale and going to smaller stuff. And Rob, I've said before that, streaming is not the answer, and it's simply not. Again, I point everybody back to that Hollywood Reporter roundtable where they had all the studio heads talking together and they bring up the issues of streaming and stuff like that. It's not the answer. But guess what? If this thing stretches into mid-2021, streaming may not be the answer, but it becomes the only option left on the table. So now you're going to see something that I never thought would have happened before, because I never thought the theaters would be closed until 2021. Now you're going to see Black Widow. Guess what? Disney is not going to sit on that for another year. Disney's not going to sit on, I just do not believe that Disney is just going to sit on Black Widow for another year. Black Widow may have to hit streaming. And while a lot of us go, okay, yay, we finally get to see it. Guess what? Disney takes a massive punch to the balls financially because of it. But they can't just, to your point, Rob, you've brought this up many times. You can only leave a big, high budget, big financial implications movie sitting on the shelf for so long. You can only do that for so long. You're talking about all these types of stuff, and we're talking about a tectonic shift in the entire movie industry. The movies will survive, but it'll look a lot different, and there's going to be a lot of dominoes that do fall if this thing stretches into 2021. And these things like, it's even hard to fathom, Rob, because once you start realizing what the next domino to fall is, then your head starts going, okay, and if that happens, look at what happens next. And oh my God, if that happens, look at what happens next. It's a really scary, scary thought for this industry. Anyway, Rob, you take a look and you read this analyst's words saying, we're thinking maybe mid-2021. What are the number one, let me ask you this. Number one, what do you think the likelihood is of that being true? But then secondly, if it does turn out to be true, what do you see as being the implications of it?
Well, first of all, I think that movie theaters are probably going to stay closed in the United States. They're opening up in Germany. They're opening up around the world, places where people have been more responsible than we have been. And they've tamped down this virus. There's a reason why there's only like 2 countries left on the earth that will allow Americans into their borders now. Something nutty like that. And I think that that movies will probably open. And what's going to happen, I think, is that these big budget tentpoles, the problem is, John, those movies are made with borrowed money. The studios don't just have $200 million lying around in a vault somewhere that they use to finance their films. No, they borrow that money from a bank. So there's interest payments that have to be paid back. And their entire business model is structured on the fact that they know when a movie's going to come out. And if they borrow $200 million to make a No Time to Die or to make a Tenant, they know that, okay, on July 17th, today, the money was going to be coming back to the studio, and they can start making those interest payments and paying off what was part of that production budget. But now they can't. So then the interest payments increase. So eventually the studios, like you said, they can't sit on these big tentpole movies forever and not have them, especially when you have more than one. And they have to start paying back the money they owe because they're increasing their debt load on a daily basis. So I think what's going to happen is, if America can't get its act together, and right now this pandemic is raging out of control, more so than it did ever, we're never going to get our theaters open, but other parts of the world will. And I can see that the studio's like, well, you know how we would get movies first before the rest of the world? We're going to be the country like Japan or something that gets it last, unless it's a worldwide release. I could see that happening. I could see the rest of the world's going to get Tenet and Black Widow, and they're going to see these movies, and they might not make everything back because America's obviously a huge market, but they're going to have to start releasing movies in the countries that have been able to get a handle on this virus and open up their theaters. I mean, I could see that happening, but in America, I don't know. And like you said, it would have a devastating effect upon the entire movie business. And streaming can't save everybody, especially, it's crazy to me to think that Netflix is going to make a $200 million action film. I understand that, but how do you then, that's a lot of subscribers that you have to get back, or you have to increase your subscription base to justify a $200 million movie. I don't see how the economics will work for that either. I get it if you make a $65 million movie. You know, I get the Snyder Cut, which might be up to as much as $80 million. That makes sense to me. But streamers can't put on $200 and $250 million films. How do you, like, if Disney Plus puts Black Widow on their service, they make no money back from that. I mean, sure, they can carve out however many subscriptions they'll get based on that, but they don't get the money they've laid out for the production of the movie. That's something they have to eat. And that wasn't something that they were prepared to do because their business model was based on a theatrical release worldwide. And they expect $1 billion from these movies now. And I don't know, dude. We could be in for a world of hurt if they don't start opening movies in theaters. That's why I think we'll see movies open in theaters in other countries. You know,
don't you think? I mean, I've thought about that too. Don't you think there's a danger, though, or at least an apprehension there on the part of the studios when you think about, well, listen, the theaters are open in Japan now, the theaters are opening in China, the theaters are opening wherever. Wouldn't there be an apprehension on the part of the studios of going, listen, if we start releasing these in other countries, it's just going to get pirated in the U.S. And then maybe if we ever get a chance to open them in the U.S., it's just. Yeah, but you think that's just a risk they have to take at this point?
I think at some point, I mean, yeah, piracy would be a huge issue. I don't know how, even if you do it on SVOD, you know, you charge, like we were talking about, something like No Time to Die coming out for like $50 or Tenet $20. You said you pay $20, but as soon as you do that, people will pirate those movies as well, and that's a huge problem. And I see right now we're in a world of hurt because there's all these big movies, whether it's Tenet, whether it's No Time to Die, whether it's the Fast Saga, whether it's the Eternals, these movies that have already been made, the money has been spent. So we've got this sort of interim period, but that could be hugely damaging to the studios as well, financially, by not releasing them, by holding back. I don't know what we're going to do, man. It's a mess. I just wish people would, you know, rather than worry about their civil rights or breathing in carbon monoxide, and everyone's now screaming that it's a plot to take over, you know, one world government. It's just crazy. It's just a disease. It happens all the time. We've got to take it seriously.
One of my favorite things I've seen on social media lately was, I can't remember, it was some prominent dude who wrote, And I can't remember if I told you this before, but it was a great little thing. Some prominent dude wrote on social media, I put on a mask and within moments I had trouble breathing, right? And then attached to it was a response from this woman who said, my surgeon who wore a mask for 6 hours while reconstructing my knee says you're a drama queen. But anyway, so anyway, guys, the question is for the rest of you guys. The question is for you guys. Number one, do you think that this really can, remember, this is one analyst saying mid-2021, may be the case, may not be the case. Do you think we could actually see this stretch into 2021, mid-2021? And if so, what do you think the repercussions are going to be? Will it be disastrous? We can recover from disasters, but do you think it could actually be disastrous? Jump down into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Daniel Kaufman Haygood. And Daniel Kaufman Haygood writes, hey, John, the Disney Plus August release dates have dropped, and it looks like what we all knew has been confirmed. Falcon and Winter Soldier is not on the list of August releases. According to earlier reports, they only had 6 days left to film. Actually, what I heard was 9 days. I heard they still had 9 shooting days they needed to complete. Not many. The finish line was in sight. But anyway, left to complete filming before they were shut down due to COVID. How much longer do you think it will take for the show to finally complete filming and be edited and released? All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, we have been talking about this on the show a little bit, is the Disney Plus stuff, particularly when it comes to Marvel. And the questions come up lately, what's going to happen with Falcon and Winter Soldier? They weren't able to complete filming. Have they been able to sneak into some sound stages in different countries that have opened back up and finish it? Will it still hit its August release date? Will they maybe release the first half of the series? Maybe release the first half in August, then get back and finish shooting, and then maybe release the second half in October or November or something like that. There have been a lot of different theories, but it now does seem like it is now official. The release schedule of all the new stuff coming out on Disney Plus in August has come out, and noticeable by its absence is, of course, Falcon and Winter Soldier. This is we got Disney via the Decider revealed the full slate of movies and TV shows and documentaries that will be released on Disney Plus in August, but the Falcon and the Winter Soldier was not included. Disney and Marvel have yet to announce a specific release date for the first episode of the series. However, it was previously confirmed by CEO Bob Iger that it would arrive in August. Obviously, that's not true anymore. With this delay, it remains unclear when the Falcon and Winter Soldier will arrive. All right. One of the first things I should probably point out here is that the big kind of wish that a lot of fans are putting out there, understandably so, is, well, damn it, just release the first half of the series then. Release the first 4 episodes and then finish shooting later on, then put it up. Here's the potential problem with that logic, though. Falcon and Winter Soldier, much like Lucifer, which is now on Netflix, and much like a lot of other streaming shows, are not traditional TV programs, where traditionally, like a Law and Order with 21 episodes in a season, as the first episodes of a season come out, they're still working on the other episodes. They work at like 6 or 7 weeks ahead, right? So they're still shooting as it's going on. They shoot one episode at a time. They shoot one episode, finish that episode, done, send it over to post-production, and then the crew and cast move on to start making the next episode. That is not necessarily how these streaming shows get made. Sometimes these episodes, they're shot like a movie where, okay, we're going to shoot scene 43 on day 1. On day 1, we shoot scene 43. Then on day 2, we're going to shoot scenes 18 and 21. Then on day 3, we're going to shoot scenes 1 and 9. They often will shoot out of order depending on what the schedule is. So while there is this theory about why not just release the first few episodes, it is possible. And I'm not saying this is the case. I'm just saying it's possible. We need to keep in mind, since they're shooting this thing like a movie, that the first few episodes may not be complete. Some of those days of shooting may very well have to do with that. But the other kind of theory, Rob, here, and the other potential problem that we see here with something like this is maybe one of the issues for the delay isn't just that they can't get the 9 days of shooting done. we've speculated about this before. How interconnected is Falcon and Winter Soldier with the other stuff going on in the MCU? Like Ant-Man, you could have watched Ant-Man at almost any time, right? But how connected will this be? Because if it's directly connected one way or the other with a story point or a narrative thread that is supposed to go right into Black Widow or something like that, you know, then they're in a position where, well, we can't release this show until Black Widow. I mean, again, I don't know that. That's just a piece of speculation. Rob, you've seen that Falcon and Winter Soldier is not listed in the August releases. What do you think might be holding it up, and when do you think we might actually end up seeing this thing?
Well, my first inclination would be to say that it's a production issue, that it just isn't finished yet because of what happened. I mean, 4 months of post-production time is a lot. Maybe they just couldn't get it done in time. But knowing the MCU, I could see it having something to do with, I mean, Falcon and Winter Soldier and Black Widow would seem to be the closest in terms of maybe one narrative thread that's left dangling in Black Widow was supposed to be picked up by Falcon and Winter Soldier. I mean, I think that's on your part, a very, very astute speculation. And maybe something in Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to lead into the Eternals. And then, you know, who knows? It makes sense to me because with globetrotting spy thriller superheroics, and you've got the Eternals who are probably spread out over the globe, and Black Widow probably spread out all over, you know, I know a lot of it takes place, I guess, in Russia, but it's all interconnected, and I think you're absolutely right. I think, one, it probably isn't quite done yet, but two, you know, these things have to play out properly. And they rescheduled Black Widow into what, October?
Or November. I can't remember.
November, and then they would drop Falcon and Winter Soldier after that. I think we have to assume that the entire MCU has been pushed back further. They don't have to announce that yet, but I would just assume that's the case. But I do find it curious that no one said anything about this.
Do you think that, you know, with we just talked about the New Mutants teaser, there's going to be a panel at the at-home Comic-Con that's coming up and everything. Do you think Disney and Marvel may reveal what their new plans are with an entire shift of programming, or do you think they'll just kind of leave that still unspoken at this point?
No, I think they're gonna have to come out and say, look, I think people are scrambling. Hollywood has never been put in this situation ever. And I think people don't understand the economics. They don't understand the ramifications. I think everybody's trying to figure out, what does this mean for all of us going forward? And I believe that it's not negligence. People just don't know. You know, they're wandering around going, what the hell do we do, man? Like, I don't know. And I'm sure Disney, I mean, Marvel has been such a well-oiled, think about it, man. They were delivering 2 and 3 movies a year. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Now they have these incredible, these huge plans to, we're going to go into a streaming service. I mean, Disney Plus, you think Disney Plus is not I'm sure the powers that be, I'm sure Bob Iger's like, damn it, you know, we pushed this out with our new programming as far as we could go. Mandalorian's a hit. Now we did our Mandalorian gallery show. I mean, we can only milk the Mandalorian so much. We needed Falcon and Winter Soldier to drop on Disney Plus to give us another big boost, because who didn't want to watch that, especially after having Black Widow come out? But now, I mean, the ramifications of all of this are so wide-reaching, and the ripples. If you think of Hollywood or Disney as a pond, and the fact that they can't, if the not releasing something is the rock that goes into the pond to ripple out, it's affecting every part of Disney's business, from theme parks to Disney Plus to movie theaters, because, you know, all of this stuff gets promoted across platforms, and if you don't have it out there, I mean, even toys, they always make Marvel toys. Are the Black Widow toys out? I don't even know. But oh my God, I mean, I wanted to know, what does the Hot Toys figures look like for Black Widow? We don't know because they can't release them yet. What a mess.
The other thing to keep in, you kind of touched on it there for a second, is that Disney Plus has got to start putting out more marquee stuff, because I was reading this report that while the subscription rate for Disney Plus has been on a more rapid pace than they initially thought, partially because of COVID and everybody stuck at home. What people aren't talking about is that the drop-off rate has been higher than they ever thought it would be. So yes, you're getting all these people, much more people signing up for Disney Plus right now than they originally thought at this point. But they're also having a higher number of people canceling the service than they thought they would be. Now, for them, the good news is that the rate of new subscriptions is outpacing the rate of their drop-off, but it is a much higher drop-off number. And dude, listen, I love Disney's content. I'm considering canceling Disney Plus. It's like I can only watch Mandalorian so many times. I can only watch, so I don't know. So that's another thing they got to take into consideration. The question here, guys, is for you. What do you think about this push of Falcon and Winter Soldier? Do you think it has more to do with not being able to finish the shooting? Do you think it has more to do with the overall scheduling of the rest of the MCU? When do you think we might see this thing finally hit the air? I actually made that the topic of today's question of the day. I wanted to ask you guys. So just before the show started, I jumped on Facebook, and of course our polls are on, or I should say my YouTube channel. The polls are on my YouTube channel under the community tab. And I asked you guys just before the show started, Falcon and Winter Soldier will not release in August as originally planned. Do you think the show will hit Disney Plus before the end of 2020? So not just September, October, even by November. Will we see it even before the end of 2020? And right now, a little over 2,500 of you guys have already voted. Only 43% of you guys are saying, yes, you think Falcon and Winter Soldier will actually come out in 2020. As of right now, 57% of you guys are saying, no, it will not come out until 2021. I thought we would see a little bit of an advantage for the yeses, but you guys are saying 43%, yes, it'll come out, 57%, no, it will not come out. I'm going to leave that up on the community tab. Guys, make sure if you want to see that community tab, make sure you guys go over to my YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button. You're on my YouTube channel right now. Take a second, click the subscribe button, and then keep up to date with all that stuff. So we're going to leave that up there. But in the meantime, guys, what do you guys think? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to our fourth and final main topic today. It's been a busy day. And our fourth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Eric Huffman, who writes, where's Eric? There he is. Eric writes, hey, John, did you hear that Noah, I'm almost sure, certainly I always mispronounce his last name, Centineo, has been cast as Atom Smasher in the Black Adam solo film? I don't know a great deal about his resume outside of the Netflix film he was in, which I believe To All the Boys I've Loved Before is the one where he got his fame. What are your thoughts on the casting, and do you think this film will hit its release date? Thanks, and stay sweaty. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, there has been a big casting announcement, which is, again, I'm always going to mispronounce his name, Noah Centineo? Probably Centineo. Noah Centineo has joined the Black Adam movie as Atom Smasher. Now, if some of you are thinking, wait a minute, I don't watch this To All the Boys I've Loved Before show, but that name sounds familiar. The reason that name sounds familiar is because last year he hit the news because he was cast to play He-Man in the upcoming live action thing. A movie, by the way, Rob, at this point, I have no idea if that movie is still on the books or not. I simply have no idea if that movie's even still on the books or not. We'll have to see. But he's joining the Black Adam movie. Now, going back to the second part of your question, which is, do I think the Black Adam movie is even going to hit its release date? Dude, listen, I have no idea when they were planning to start shooting. And depending on when they were planning to start shooting, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I think right now, if you ask about any movie, will X movie hit its release date? Your first answer has to be, I think it's questionable that it will. With any movie you're talking about right now, because not only, even if Black Adam isn't scheduled to start shooting for a while, you're talking about all these other movies that are having to be pushed now, and that's probably going to have a ripple effect. So maybe it will, maybe it won't. As far as what I think about this kid being cast to star alongside Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in a movie like Black Adam, I simply don't know, because like a lot of you, I've never seen To All the Boys I've Loved before. I know it gained a real following, and a lot of people who've seen it really, really enjoy it. But full disclosure, I've never seen it myself. I'm not really the demographic for it, so I cannot speak to this kid's acting ability. And you guys know, to me, that's all it ever is. The only thing I care about when somebody gets cast in a role is that performer a good actor? Is she a good actor? Is he a good actor? That's all I ever care about. And I simply don't know enough about this kid yet, other than the fact that I thought he was a very strange choice to play He-Man. But other than that, I really don't know much more about it. Anyway, Rob, you hear about this. What do you think, number one, about this kid being signed on? But number two, what do you think about the character that he's playing? What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, I like the character of Adam Smasher. You know, a version of him appeared in a second season episode of The Flash. Adam Smasher.
That's right. Yes, you're right about that.
And he was a part of Infinity Incorporated, which is a comic that I liked. I mean, he comes out of classical classical DC history. So I love the character. I think the character's cool. But I don't know anything about this kid either. And I find it interesting. I mean, how are they going to, if they're going to bring in Adam Smasher, are they going to bring in the rest of Infinity Incorporated? I mean, are they going to bring in Obsidian, characters like that? I don't know. It intrigues me about the Black Adam movie that they would bring Adam Smasher in. I'm excited about this movie, John. And while I don't know this kid, and I thought it was a weird choice for him to play He-Man as well, the picture you have up right now, I mean, that kid, he could be a superhero. He's got the looks. He's got the physique. He's put on about 15 good pounds in that picture, because that's not what he looked like before. He still doesn't look like He-Man to me, but he looks a lot bigger than he did. I could only imagine if you're in a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie. I can't imagine. Would he demand that you work out with him? Because
here's something funny.
Have you seen videos on social media and stuff are brutal?
Have you seen, I don't know, are you aware of this new show on Netflix with, why am I freezing on this kid's name? He was in Baywatch with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. High School Musical kid. Why am I freezing on his name? I actually like this guy a lot. The big teen heartthrob dude. High School Musical.
Yeah.
Guys, help me out here. Why am I freezing on this? Zac Efron. That's what it is. Zac Efron.
Yeah.
There's a new show on Netflix with Zac Efron where him and this fitness dude, they literally travel the world. And like this latest episode I saw, they went to this little town in Italy where people habitually live into their hundreds. And they're like, look at what's the genetic stuff here? What is it about their diet and their lifestyles in this little like backward town in Italy? Then they'll go to like Iceland and look at the way they use natural resources. It's really cool. But anyway, the reason I bring all that up is that Zac Efron, this new episode I was just watching, he was talking about the fact his shooting for Baywatch, in which he had to appear shirtless with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And he was like, dude, he said, without a word of a lie, I didn't eat a slice of bread, not a single carbohydrate entered my body for 6 months. Like, it's just because you're appearing with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So yeah, I'm guessing you got to get after it if you're going to be being a movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
You got to get after it. I love that phrase.
But listen, I will say this though. Amidst all the doom and gloom, theaters may not open till 2021, and Falcon and Winter Soldier delayed. I got to admit, even though it just might be naive on my part, it shines a little bit of light into my heart when I hear about other projects making progress. So even though I don't want to read too much into this at all, just hearing that they've made a significant casting for an upcoming movie like Black Adam, it makes me smile a little bit. So I at least say that. Question here for you guys is, what do you think of this casting? Maybe you have watched this To All the Boys I've Loved before. Maybe you're familiar with Nick's work and you like it. Maybe you're familiar with his work and you don't. Do you think Black Adam's going to hit on time? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. with all that down, we're now going to move into our live questions that you guys have been sending in. Once again, you guys can still send it in. Simply use the tip link that's in the top of the description of this video, or you can simply use the link streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. And by the way, you can use this link anytime. So if you're watching this video after the fact, you can go and use it right now, and your question will be one of the first that gets answered on the next episode. Anyway, guys, with that down, let's get into your live questions. And we're going to start things off here in our live questions with Kara Black, who writes, the Batman the Animated Series episode I was referring to was the first one Freeze appeared in. Oh, I remember this. So yesterday, Kara asked a question if what my first impressions were of a certain episode of Batman the Animated Series. She named the episode, but I never know. Even in my favorite shows, I don't know the names of the episodes. I never have. Anyway, the episode I was referring to was the first Mr. Freeze appeared in, as we were finally given a chilling and heartbreaking origin story about why he is the way he is. So I was wondering if you could recall watching it for the first time. So first of all, let me just say, the voice of that character, I always loved, because he had a voice like this. I love the way that character spoke in that. It was great. And of course, going actually into the story about his wife, chilling. I will say this, though. That was nearly 30 years ago. I believe Batman the Animated Series debuted in 1992, if I'm not mistaken, which is like 28 years ago. So I got to admit, no, I recall the episode, but I absolutely do not recall seeing it for the first time and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't life-altering enough for me to remember something like that was 28 years ago. I love that series. Listen, there are a lot of places like IGN that listed it as like the second greatest animated series of all time. Like not just animated comic book series. Second grade, it won several Emmy Awards. I believe it won 3 or 4 Emmys, including like best animated show and all that kind of stuff. It was great, but I don't recall watching that episode for the first time. Rob, do you remember that episode in particular?
I do. I do, but I can't remember the first episode I saw of the Batman the Animated Series. You know, I came to it later, you know, and people were talking about how good it was. Like it was funny because living in LA in the 90s, there were always people going to like Paul Dini's house, you know, for parties and stuff. And a lot of people in my circle knew a lot of people that were, or some of my friends actually worked on that show. And I finally sat down one day to watch it. I'm like, my God, this is great. And that first season of episodes was so good. You can't not remember them. I mean, once you've seen them, it's like, it's hard to forget. And one of the things I have not picked up, I've been remiss this year, is the Blu-rays of Batman the Animated Series. I need to get those.
I remember when we talked about that, those were coming out.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on here. Next up, Tristan Thorpe writes, one of two. A couple of weeks back, I watched The Last Airbender movie, and the following week I planned on talking about it on my podcast, and I was tempted to rewatch it, but I didn't because I figure I wasn't going to talk about it for long. And sure enough, when I got talking about it, it all came back to me. The issues I have with it, like many, characters are badly written, not enough character interactions with the main characters. The pacing is quick and too much exposition. The performances were so bad too. And for me, even with bad movies, most of the time I can say the performances were solid, but with The Last Airbender, to me, that was the first bad movie where I truly felt the performances were terrible, except for Iroh. Yeah, I mean, I had not seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, the animated series, when the movie came out. And so the movie was my first experience with Avatar: The Last Airbender. And so I can say that I didn't like the movie just because it wasn't as good as the TV series, because I had never seen the TV series. I had no idea. I just sat down and watched it and went, yep, this sucks. Which is funny and too bad, because I actually thought the marketing for Last Airbender was pretty good. I thought the marketing for M. Night's Last Airbender movie was pretty solid. I was excited to see it. And then as soon as that, like 5 minutes into that movie, I'm like, this is horrible. And it prevented me for a long time from watching the series. And then just recently, I finally sat down about a month ago, and I decided to watch the Avatar: The Last Airbender series. It was only 3 seasons, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, man, it just, a lot of things wrong with that movie, dude. A lot of things wrong. Also, Tristan also writes, Also, fun fact, I also talked about Joel Schumacher and the films that I like that he directed on my show as well, because it would have been a repetitive talking about his Batman movies. It was really fun to talk about Lost Boys and Phone Booth, which was his best film. I think Lost Boys, that is a movie today, Rob, that I still don't think people talk about enough. That Lost Boys movie, Kiefer Sutherland, the only other movie that the Bill and Ted guy I think ever did.
Alex Winter.
Alex Winter, that's right. I think it's like the only movie I can think of that he actually appeared in.
Lost Boy.
That's right, and it was. He really basically didn't speak. I love that movie. That movie to me is still, I'd put a top 2 or 3 best vampire-based movies ever. I love that one. When you think of Schumacher, what's the first stuff that comes to your head?
Well, I do think of Lost Boys. But I think his best movie's Falling Down.
Oh, that one's great. With Michael Douglas?
I mean, it just becomes more relevant. But I also have a soft spot for Flatliners, the movie he made after Lost Boys. But, I mean, what a cast that movie has, too.
Kiefer Sutherland was in that one as well, was he not?
Yeah. I mean, Kevin Bacon and Julia Roberts. I mean, it's got an incredible cast. But, and then, of course, his Batman. It's funny. I really love the fact that Batman Forever, the Val Kilmer movie, is getting a whole lot of love. They're talking. People are coming out. I
always thought it was better than people gave it credit for.
Yeah, it's getting a lot of love, and even Hot Toys is going to do a Val Kilmer and a Chris O'Donnell figure, the Batman and Robin figures from those movies, and it's good because he had a pretty interesting career. I mean, he made a lot more movies than people remember, and I always thought he was stylish. I have to tell you, when I was at USC, I had this course called the Visiting Artists Seminar, and it was a very small class. It was Tuesday nights, and the teacher would bring in industry professionals to speak. And this was in 88, 89. And one day Joel Schumacher came in and he spoke for 3 hours. And there's only like 15 or 20 people in this class. And he walks in the room and there was a desk at the front of the room. And he gets on top of the desk and he sits lotus style, like he was going to meditate or something. And he was the nicest, most raucous, just fun, insightful. He was a total character, so nice. And I used to see him on the Warner lot after that when I was working there, and I loved him. I mean, I just loved Joel Schumacher. He was such a delightful man and had so many great stories. And, he was a screenwriter and he was a designer, and he was just, what a character that guy was. And, he lived a good life.
All right. Next up here, we got El Postino, the Postman writes, "Hey, John, should the NFL have promotion slash regulation with the CFL, where the winner of the Grey Cup team earns promotion to the NFL and the loser of the NFL relegation playoffs, determined by the teams with the worst record in the NFL, is relegated to the CFL?" Well, that's like a lot of the premier soccer leagues have that, right? Like you play in a certain league, but if you win the championship in that league, you get to go up to the bigger league. And if you're in the bigger league and you finish last or whatever, you go down to the league below it and stuff like that, relegation. Here's the problem with that. The biggest problem with that, why it could never happen, is because the CFL game and the NFL game are two different games. They have massively different rules. Not to mention, the CFL has rules in place. Like, it's not like CFL has a bigger field. They only have 3 downs instead of 4 downs. There's no fair catches. Like when you punt the ball, you got to get it and you got to run. There's no fair catches. There's all they have one additional player on the field as opposed to, so there's a lot of very significant rule differences. But also one of the big rule differences is that in the CFL, there is a quota rule that says a certain percentage of the players on your team have to be Canadian. And so, you can have American players, but a certain percentage of each team in the CFL has to be made up of Canadian players. And so when you take all that in consideration, you can't just take a team that wins the Grey Cup. And by the way, I think the CFL game is a better game. I think the better league is the NFL, and you got all the best players there. Yes, but with the rule changes, the rule differences, I should say, I think the CFL is a more exciting brand of football. That's just me. Because with 3 downs and a bigger field, it incorporates and it encourages a much more wide open offensive style of game. But anyway, I don't want to get off on that. But just the fact that you got these quota rules, it's a completely different game. Not completely different game, but it's a very, very significantly different game with the rules. You can't just take a team from one league and then pop it in the next one up or the next one down. So unfortunately, it's an interesting idea, El Postino, but you can't really do it. All right, Stubble McShave writes, over under 20%, we get a Dune teaser trailer before the end of July, and over under 50%, we get it before the end of August. I'm going to go under on both. The way the situation is right now, I don't think the studio is going to want to throw away a lot of marketing money on something when they're not 100% solid they know when it's going to be able to open. So while I'm not saying that the movie won't open on time, I'm simply saying it's certainly in July, and probably by the end of August, it's going to be too early for them to commit like 20, 30, 40 million dollars in marketing when they're not even sure it'll come out. So I'm going to take the over on both of that, Stubble. Scott Brown writes, a show on Netflix I would love to recommend is Duty and Shame. It's fantastic. It has Justin Long. Ooh, I love Justin Long. I love Justin Long. I think he's fantastic. As a side character with a great cast, it's about a detective in Japan who is sent to London to find his brother who was a hitman, long thought dead. What's it called? Duty and Shame.
That sounds right up my alley. Never heard of it.
Surprise, surprise. Original thing on Netflix that none of us know about because Netflix is the worst place in the world for promoting their own content. It sounds intriguing to me, though. You like the sound of this?
Dude, anything to do with Japan, and I'm in. Detectives and hitmen. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and I love like I said, I'm a big Justin Long. I've been a big Justin Long fan ever since Galaxy Quest, Jeepers Creepers. You go all the way. I love this guy. I do not know why he's not a bigger star. I don't understand why he's not a bigger star. Anyway, next up, speaking of which, Netflix marketing department writes, with you educating us on movie costs the other day, it made me think, when movie theaters finally open, will the studios have to pour more money into the marketing, or will they rely on previous marketing, some of which is month-old, A Quiet Place 2? Well, here's the thing. The real money is not making the marketing material. That's not where the real money is spent. The real money is spent on taking the marketing material you have, and it does cost money to make the marketing material, yes. But the bigger expense is then placing the marketing material. You know, when a studio makes a trailer, they don't spend as much money on making the trailer as they do for then putting that trailer on the Super Bowl, or putting that trailer in theaters, or buying national television spots for that trailer. That's where the real money adds up. So you could still use the old trailers. Yeah, you could still do that. The problem is now they got to buy. For instance, Rob, I was just talking about this the other day, Tenet, which is probably going to bump its release date again. Tenet just spent a whole hell of a lot of money on UFC 251 that I was just watching. They spent a lot of money on that. August 12th, Tenet from visionary filmmaker Christopher Nolan, blah, blah, blah. They spent a lot of money on that. And guess what? When it gets bumped, they're going to have to spend all that money again to remarket the new date, keep people reminded that the thing is coming and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to get expensive, dude. Like, but I don't know. I don't see there being a problem with using the old trailers. It's just that you got to modify them for the new release date. Or do you think it behooves them to completely create fresh new trailers at that point?
Man, again, we're so in territory that I don't know. I mean, every time, like you just pointed out, they spend a lot of money, and if they pull the movie, do they have to spend? I would think, John, they have to spend that money again to reacquaint people. I mean, if they push the movie a month or 2 months or a year, they basically have to start all over again.
Yeah.
And what I'm curious about is, once you've advertised a movie, like we've never seen this happen before. So let's say they push Tenet into 2021. Are people going to think like, wait a minute, didn't that already come out? Like, you know, not everybody's the movie fanatics that we are that watch the YouTube movie pundit space. I mean, how is the Gen Pop going to feel about that? Like, Wait a minute, didn't this movie already come out? Like, is it not good? Why am I hearing about this again? You know, it's a very weird time, and I don't know how it's going to work, dude. I really don't know.
Yep, it's yet another thing about the unprecedented time we're in right now. All right, next up, Alex Detman, who tipped $50. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, Alex. We really appreciate it. And in the next coming weeks, you're going to see this question segmented out and put up as its own standalone video on the channel. Keep your eyes open for that. But Alex writes, hey, John, I know movies based on video games are shit. Most of them are. There have been a couple of okay ones, though. But it left me wondering, with the outstanding game mechanics nowadays, Last of Us 2, Red Dead Redemption, why aren't there more games based on movies? And if you could pick 3 movies to be made to a game, what would they be? My picks would be, number 1, John Wick, 2, Logan, based before the movie and how he and Professor X made it to Mexico after the killing of the X-Men. 3, The Equalizer, especially with the hand-to-hand combat and shooting mechanic systems. P.S. Been busy, but I miss you, brother. All right, thanks a lot for that, Alex. It used to be a big thing back in the day, Rob, when we had
when I was a young boy,
when we had Intellivision. Remember Intellivision?
Oh man, I loved Intellivision.
I loved Intellivision too. When we had ColecoVision, when we had all that, we had the original Atari or say. When a movie would come out was even remotely big, they immediately made a game out of it. Like one of the worst.
Usually bad.
Oh God, remember E.T.? Yeah.
Oh,
that was like they literally took like 100,000 copies of ET and literally buried them in the desert. Like it's just crazy. But anyway, they would always do that. Here's the thing, though. Video games are not movies, and movies are not video games. And just because you have like a character, that doesn't mean it's going to make a good video game, right? Video games are about the gameplay. 100%. They're about the gameplay. And if you have a great game-playing game, it doesn't matter if you slap a John Wick decal on it. It doesn't matter if you slap Old Guard decal on it. It doesn't matter if you slap an Atomic Blonde decal on it. Or if you just create an original property and call it UFO, the Action Dog, and slap that brand on it, then the game can be successful. But we do love associating our favorite media. So I got to tell you, if I had to pick one, I would be down for trying a John Wick game because that just seems to lend itself to that. Rob, if there was one movie you could pick out right now that you would think would make a good translation to a video game just because of the nature of the IP, what do you think it would be?
Well, I would like to see it like a Fast and Furious Fast 5 game. Where you play fast, like you have to rescue Vin Diesel, and then you have to I mean, it would be an expansion of the franchise, but the different missions, I would love it. You have to work in tandem with another character to pull. They're in one car, you're in the other car, and you have to pull the safe, the giant vault through the city together as it's smashing through buildings and other cars. I'd love to see something like that. I'd play that game.
All right, let's move on here. Todd S. writes, hey, John, I know you're a big fan of the Airwolf and Knight Rider themes. I am. That's 2 of the best themes ever in the history of television. There is a girl on YouTube named Samara Ginsburg. She plays them on the cello. I'll talk about that in a second. But it's her in 8 different videos blending together to do the theme. It's great. Airwolf for 8 cellos. I've never heard of her, but I'm going to go check that out. I am a sucker for cello players who don't play traditional stuff. Like, for example, there's this group, these 2 guys, Rob. I don't know if I've talked to you about them before.
I know them. Yes.
2 cellos, they're called.
Yes. And
they're
they rule.
Fantastic.
They're
fantastic. It's just these 2, like, Czech Republic guys, I think, or something like that, that they just play, the 2 guys play cello. And you put it best, they rule. Ann and I have gone to see them live twice. We actually went to... They actually played where they hold the Oscars at the Dolby Theater, where they hold the Oscars. They did a show there, and Ann and I went to go see them about 2 years ago. Play there. If you guys want to see something really cool, go look up 2 Cellos Thunderstruck on YouTube. And that'll give you a sense. But they do originals as well, blah, blah. And, I was just watching the other day, I sat down, Rob, to watch the Hans Zimmer Live in Prague concert, where he's awesome. Playing a lot of the DCEU stuff. And I watched it because I wanted to see his Superman theme. But, they've got, what's her name? Something Gao? Tina Guo. Guo? Or is it Gao or Guo? Whatever. Who's the cello player, she's the lead on the Wonder Woman theme, right?
She plays the electric cello, and she's smoking hot.
And she does like metal sometimes too. She'll play like metal on it. It's like, I am a sucker for cellos playing non-traditional stuff. So I'll tell you what, Todd, thanks for the pointer, man. I am definitely going to have to go and check that out. Thanks for sharing. All right. An anonymous viewer writes in. On a side note, my friend, check your email in a few days. I put together a feel-good video of the people you've helped while I've been here, and I think you'll like it. Be safe, and I'll be talking to you. So, thank you so much for that, man. I'll keep my eye open for that. I appreciate that very much. I always love hearing from people who talk about how the show incorporates into their day. It's a special kind of feeling. Thank you so much for sharing that, man. All right, next up, AJ writes, hey, John, a few weeks ago, I finished the German Netflix show Dark. Not only is it one of the best Netflix shows, but I think it's one of the best shows ever created. The writing is superb, and it all wraps up perfectly and left me in awe. You know, a lot of people have been talking to me about this show, Dark, Rob. Have you watched it?
I haven't watched the third season yet, but it's amazing. It's very complex.
You know what? For people who haven't seen it yet, Rob, let me throw it over to you. Like, explain people like Dark and what it is they're in for and why you like it.
Well, it starts out as a thriller, and it's set in Germany, and there are a couple of four families. There's a couple of families, and they get involved. There's mysterious disappearances. There's wacky stuff happening, and I don't want to ruin it, but it turns out that there's time travel involved with all of this, and it's very, very clever as to how time travel is utilized, and then you start following. I don't want to ruin it, John, because it's the unfolding of the story that's pretty masterful, but it does get very complex. There are times when I had to go back and go, wait, who's where and what time frame are they in? And it's a really incredible show. Now, I haven't seen the third season yet, and as soon as the third season's dropped, people have been just writing in going, oh, no, they stuck the landing on this. It's like the greatest show ever. But I would say that it has one of the most effective uses of time travel
that
I think I've ever seen. But it requires a lot of attention. Now, I've tried to watch the show both dubbed and subtitled, and I vastly prefer. I never like looking at things dubbed, so I would suggest watching it subtitled. I know some people aren't into it, but it's definitely worth your time. But it is a complex show. It requires an attention span. But man, is it cool.
All right. Next up, we've got Micah T who writes, I don't know if you saw, but if you go to LeBron's Instagram story, he's wearing a pretty filthy Star Wars colorway of his shoes. Ooh, I thought you would appreciate them as much as I did. I am not aware of that, but you know, LeBron's my favorite basketball player playing today. And I'm a big Star Wars guy, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of an image search. Actually, you know, could you guys do me a favor, or Micah, would you mind if you've got that image? Because I don't follow LeBron on Instagram. If you have a screenshot of it, could you email it to me? I would love to see it. Just email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. I would love to see that. Thank you for putting that on my radar. All right, Sam Chen writes, one of two. I always appreciated but not loved Doom Patrol until this latest episode, Finger Patrol. It pulls back a bit on the craziness and combines deep drama with genuine comic book thrills. When Cliff explains how he struggles to remember how it feels to touch things and people, I got chills. That scene is performed in a way that invites us all into Cliff's metal body and human suffering. Larry's intense storyline with his family and that brutal ending elevates the series to premium TV status for me. Sam, listen, I can't talk enough about Doom Patrol. This show, the way I've described it is, Shakespeare is the architect. The architect. Shakespeare is the architect who built the house, and Kevin Smith is the interior designer who decorates it. That's the best way I know how to describe Doom Patrol. It is the deepest, most profound stuff they cover in the most wacky, off the wall, crazy kind of way. And Rob, I don't know if you saw, if you've been catching up on this season of Doom Patrol at all.
I haven't seen this season, but I love the first season.
I just didn't know if they would be able to follow up, and dude, they have followed up. And 2 episodes ago was an episode titled The Sex Men. I never remember the names of episodes, but I'll always remember the name of that one. The Sex Men, not X-Men, The Sex Men. And this last one, I just finally watched it yesterday. Oh my God, the stuff they're doing in the show is so fantastic. I expect you'll see it move off of the DC streaming service and probably onto HBO Max here, but so good, Sam. I completely agree with you, Sam. I completely agree with you. It's just, this show just gets better and better as it goes, and I'm absolutely in awe of it. Sam also writes, do you think athletes can or should be compared across different sports? I think the number of participants is a factor. For instance, I consider Messi the greatest athlete ever since he dominates the most accessible sport, hence with the most competition. I don't think that I don't consider that at all. I don't consider it at all. Here's the measure. I saw ESPN talk about this before. And this is, and I really like their approach to it and why I think this approach works. The way ESPN, when they were talking this one time, this was just a couple of years ago, and they were talking about, determining the most dominant athlete of their sport. And their measure was the way they measured it was this. Take the athlete we're talking about and then see, mathematically speaking, how they compared. So if you got the athlete you're talking about, how did they compare to the rest of their peers during that era? So you have Michael Jordan here. The rest of the NBA was like here, right? You had, Brett Favre here, the rest of the NFL here. And when they broke it down, like statistically, when you break down how many points and blah, 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 and how much were they separated, it wasn't even close who they determined was the most dominant athlete of their sport of all time. Rob, do you want to take a guess who that athlete might have been? When you're talking about statistic-wise, was further separated from the rest of their peers than any other athlete in their sport.
I don't know. Muhammad Ali.
Wayne Gretzky. It was Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky was so much better than everybody else in the game when he played it. It was almost a mockery. Like imagine LeBron James when the second, third, and fourth highest scorers in the league were averaging 28 points per game, but LeBron James was averaging 51 points per game. As impossible as that sounds, that's the type of gap between Wayne Gretzky and the rest of every other hockey player in the world. Can you imagine, again, using basketball as an analogy, if one single player held the all-time record for points, assists, and rebounds? It doesn't. That does not happen. It never will happen. But guess what? Wayne Gretzky has the most goals, the most assists, and the most points. He holds almost every significant record there ever is or ever was. It was like he was the best quarterback in the NFL and the best safety in the NFL, all at the same time. He is so far separated from everybody else, it was just a non-comparison. So if you want to look at it in terms of athletes relative to their dominance over their peers when they played, it's not even close. It's not even a discussion to be had. Wayne Gretzky was so far ahead. He's not even my favorite hockey player of all time. My favorite hockey player of all time is Mario Lemieux, and then second is Mike Bossy. But Gretzky was just so far ahead of everybody else, it wasn't even close. All right, anyway, next up, Double Crit writes, is the Mortal Kombat Scorpion's Revenge film on your radar? I'm aware of it, but nope, not interested in it at all, to be honest. I know you dislike the direct-to-video animated WB stuff, but this is basically a 70-minute intro into the vast Mortal Kombat roster. I think it was made to prepare audiences for the 2021 live-action film. Well, that was a mistake because no one's going to watch it. As far as vast numbers of audiences go. To me, the biggest problem with the animated DC films is their half-baked continuity, particularly once they started adapting the controversial New 52 material. All the great ones are pre-2014 for a reason. Scorpion's Revenge doesn't have that issue. I'll be honest with you, Double Crit, I have no interest in it. I am interested in the Mortal Kombat movie, Rob, I think you probably are too. I'm interested in that movie. Are you familiar with this Scorpions animated thing? Do you have any interest in it?
No, I mean, look, I've liked a lot of the DC animated films. You know, I own a lot of them, but I'm not. You know, I usually pick them up after the fact if people say that they're good. You know,
right?
But I mean, I try and focus more. There's so much to focus on. They aren't at the top of my priority list of things that I keep on my radar. But if I hear that they're good, like I picked up Flashpoint Paradox because people said it was good. I liked the comic story, and I was like, okay, you know, I like
that's one I didn't mind. I didn't mind that one.
Yeah, I like the Judas Contract, even though they changed it, and then I like the Wonder Woman one that they did. But my problem is, I really wish that the style of animation was a little different, or that they changed up the style of animation from film to film, like did some really diverse things, which they don't do. But you know, they're not bad.
It's all cost. It's cost effective for them to do it that way and to crank that stuff out. Okay, we got time for one or two more here with Rob still here. This next one, Shane Roxas writes, "Hey John, to clear up the T-1000 clothes argument, the T-1000 can only mimic what it comes into contact with. So presumably Skynet wouldn't have clothes for it to mimic, thus forcing the T-1000 to copy whatever it first came into contact with. The problem with that, because we raised the question, Rob, if the T-1000 can just make it look like he's wearing clothes, why does he come through naked? Well, guess what? They had lots of human bodies wearing clothes that he could just touch and come through wearing clothes. That's still a part I don't understand. Have you thought of any more theories regarding that, Rob?
No, but I've been thinking about this a lot.
I know, right? It gets into your head and you find yourself thinking about it a whole bunch, and which I do not know why. All right, next up here, Dark Knight Rises writes, "First, thanks so much for the blessing you and your show are to people all over the world." Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. That's some kind words. Second, what's your opinion on how good an actor Robert Redford is? He tends to play himself as far as I can tell, but his work in All Is Lost is Oscar worthy. I remember having a conversation about Robert Redford before. There are definitely similarities in how, whether you're watching Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid or Sneakers or whatever, there's some similarities in the characters that run through. The test for an actor to me, there are two big things. One, how much of a chameleon are you? Like Daniel Day-Lewis can step into the shoes of anything and he will completely morph into that thing. So that's the one thing. I've never felt Robert Redford is that chameleon type where he can just become whatever it is he's supposed to be. But there's a second thing. One, how much of a chameleon are you? That's important to me. The other big important thing to me is this. Do you get me lost in the movie by your performance? Does your performance just make me not see you, but see whoever it is and whatever it is the character you are? When I watch Robert Redford, he does that. It doesn't matter what I'm watching him in. It doesn't matter if he's in Winter Soldier or whatever. When he is performing, I get immediately immersed. He has a quality about him that gets me immediately immersed into who and what his character is. And so maybe he's not the Daniel Day-Lewis kind of brilliant, but I still consider him to be a brilliant actor because he does that for me every single time. Rob, what are your thoughts on Robert Redford?
I like Robert Redford. I mean, I've grown up with him, and I think he's... I mean, 3 Days of the Condor, you know, I love that film. I did love Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I like him. I mean, do I think that he's the greatest actor in the world? Maybe not, but I really like him as a presence. You know, there's something about him I've always liked.
And, you know, everybody will, obviously, we go to Butch Cassidy and some of his classics. I don't care. My favorite movies of his is still Sneakers. I can watch
Sneakers. Sneakers is great, and like I grew up. I watched The Electric Horseman like a million times on cable, you know. But Sneakers is a great movie. That's a movie that doesn't really get talked about a lot, but it's got what a cast that movie has.
It's
Ben Kingsley's in it.
You got Sir Ben Kingsley's bad guy. You got Dan Aykroyd is in there. You got James Earl Jones pops up. You got River Phoenix, I should say.
River Phoenix.
David
Strathairn.
Yeah, I always mispronounce his last name. I mean, it is a killer cast. It's just Oh, it's so good. Okay, next one up here. Dark Knight Rises also writes, "Hey, John, I am not satisfied with any of the rumored actors, with a possible exception of Henry Cavill to replace Daniel Craig as Bond. Is there any way Christian Bale or Eric Bana could enter the picture?" Well, I mean, look, it comes down to this. I don't care. All I care about, listen, because the reality is Dark Knight Rises, if you had put out a public poll, which there basically was ad nauseum, they're looking at Heath Ledger to play Joker. Nobody would have accepted that. Very few people. There are a bunch of liars today who go, "Oh, I knew that was brilliant." No, you weren't. No, you didn't. Everybody's like, "Brokeback Mountain Boy." And look, the key is it all depends on what a director wants an actor to bring to the character, right? And so that's why it's always folly when I do it too, but when I and the rest of us as film fans do these speculative fan castings, it's folly because we don't know what the director's looking for. We don't know what specific elements they want a particular actor to bring to a character. See, because what we as fans do, Rob, is we start writing a movie in our own head to suit the actor we want to have in that role. Right? So we think, I want Christian Bale. And then we have a James Bond movie written for Christian Bale in our head.
Yeah.
And that's the reverse of the way it needs to happen. So look, if they cast Christian Bale, of course, that's great news. He's a great actor. If they cast an Eric Bana, who we really don't see much of these days, but I would be happy with it because I like him as an actor. I think Eric Bana's probably a little old to start playing James Bond right now. Maybe, maybe not. I am all for Henry Cavill because he was the runner-up to Daniel Craig. But remember, everybody hated Daniel Craig's casting at first too. Remember that was that huge Craig not Bond.
He was blonde.
Yeah, remember that though? Craig not blonde. He's not good looking enough. He's got blonde hair. Blah, blah, blah. Craig not Bond. He's now my favorite Bond of all time. So I think we've got to give more leeway to the directors to choose that. That's why I always say the only thing that I concern myself with is, do I think the person they're getting is a talented performer? That's all I care about. If they're a talented performer and there's nothing extreme that should negate them from playing the character, then I'm all for it. I know, Rob, you got a top of a wish list for the new Bond? Because I know you're a big Bond guy.
Yeah, I think Henry Cavill would be, like we've talked about how we both love Man from U.N.C.L.E. And he was great in that. I think, and Henry Cavill's 37. He's the sweet spot. He's the right age for Bond. But, you know, people talk about Richard Madden from Rob Stark, who was in The Bodyguard, the BBC show. I like him as well. I think he could be great. But other than those two, I still think that the Broccoli family, I think that they're going to sell the Bond franchise. I still think that.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Yeah. All right, last one here that we'll have with Rob here because he's got things he's got to do. Sam writes, "I think Deadpool will happen and be R. It just feels like Disney is trigger shy. I wonder what this means for Blade because I agree that you can do PG-13, but like Deadpool, it feels more appropriate for Blade to be R as well. I know you gave your reasons why Deadpool and X-Men should be separate, but the idea of both playing in the same sandbox with the Avengers is something I think Disney can't pass on. I know it means less movies, but I'm okay with that, just my speculation." Here's the thing, though, when it comes to the Deadpool with Avengers, I don't think that's tempting at all. At least to the degree that a lot of us make it out to be. It sounds like a quick gimmick. I just don't see how. And Rob, I think you might disagree with me on this. I just really don't see how, if you do Deadpool the way Ryan Reynolds has done Deadpool and the way that Deadpool works, I don't see how you could take that character and drop him in Winter Soldier. I don't see how you can take that character and have him with Hawkeye unless you're doing a joke, unless you're doing a skit. I just don't see how that works long term without fundamentally changing how you do Deadpool. And that's why it just, I don't know. And I'm not saying they're not going to do it. They very well could do it. It is very, very possible, even likely. But I don't think it's a thing of, oh, the idea of Deadpool with the Avengers is too tempting to pass up. No, it's not. If you think Deadpool would work better, and that's a big if you feel as a filmmaker that Deadpool would just work better if he's separate from that, then that's what you go with. I don't think, oh man, but wouldn't it be funny seeing Deadpool have a quick exchange with, I don't know, Thor? Sure, but that's a YouTube sketch. That's a scene. That's not a franchise. So I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel about it. Whether it'll be R, again, look, I still think the best way to do it is keep Deadpool rated R and keep him separate from the main MCU. Just like they had him sort of separate from the X-Men universe, where with some little, jokey overlaps, of course. How come you were the only 2 X-Men in the mansion? That sort of thing. I think that's the best way to do it, but I don't know that that's the way. They very well could go PG-13 Deadpool in the MCU. I don't know, Rob. You got to thought about, do you think maybe the idea of a Deadpool sharing a scene with Thanos or sharing a scene with Thor or sharing a scene with Hawkeye is too tempting for Disney to pass up?
No, I don't think that would work either. I mean, as much as, look, as a comic book fan my whole life, crossovers are fun, but I just don't think there is a tone that the MCU has built up over all of their movies, 23 films now, 25 films if we ever see Black Widow and Eternals, and however many TV shows we're going to get. And I just don't think Deadpool fits into that. It would shatter the tone of all 23 Marvel movies that we've seen now if Deadpool were to come in. Now, you could maybe, and if you were to turn Ryan Reynolds' performance into a Deadpool that I think is palatable in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it wouldn't be Deadpool anymore. I like the fact that I take the Marvel Universe seriously. They haven't dumbed it down. They haven't added some wacky characters like in a Transformers 2 with clanging metal balls together. They haven't done that. With all the different characters they've introduced and all the heroes, there is an earnestness to that storytelling that I don't want to see disrupted. I like what they've done. To me, it's funny when Tony Stark and Doctor Strange at the beginning of Infinity War are going at each other and they're talking about ice cream or whatever. That's funny, and that's its own brand of humor. I don't need Wade Wilson to be dropped in the middle of it doing what he does. I don't think it would work.
Now, I will say, if anybody could figure out a way to make it work, it's Kevin Feige.
Yep.
Who knows? Who knows? We're still a ways off from finding out. Anyway, Rob, I know that's all the time you got here with us today, but in the meantime, my friend, it's always an honor having you here. Whereabouts can people find you in your adventures online?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, and find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations, every day.
A show about something. All right, Rob, thanks a lot for being here, man, and we will talk to you again soon, my friend. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
All right, guys, we've got about a little under 20 minutes left, so let's see if we can fly through the rest of these. Isaac Beebe writes in, I normally hate it when people get their phones out while in a movie, absolutely. But I'll make an exception for a video that I just saw on YouTube from an outdoor French cinema showing Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince a few years ago. When, spoilers, Dumbledore is killed by Snape and everyone is gathered around his body, they all raise their wands with the glowing... I've seen this happen with their glowing light on the end. When that happens, everyone in the audience turns on the flashlight on their phones and holds them up. I'll tell you what, I have seen that happen in a theater. I saw that happen in a theater, but it wasn't people turning on their flashlights. I remember being in a theater. It was my second or third time seeing the film, and instead of having the flashlights on, I saw a whole bunch of people in the theater just have their phones turned on, just holding up their phones. And you're right. It was a nice, I'm not even a Potterhead. I'm not even a huge Harry Potter guy. I like the movies, but I'm not a huge Potter guy. And even I was like, this is kind of emotional seeing all these people in the theater holding up their phones because, Dumbledore meant something to them too. And I thought that was, so I'm with you on that. I never take out your phone in the theater, but if you're watching Harry Potter and that happens, and yeah, then we'll give that one a pass. Okay, next one up. Andy Hong writes, if a Man of Steel sequel gets a green light and Henry Cavill comes back, do you think Warner Brothers could give it a stronger tangibilization by giving him a cameo in the Arrowverse? Oh God, I hope not. Like they did with Ezra Miller. If they ever do that, I have an incredible idea where he meets the Arrowverse's Supergirl, gets his ass handed gets his ass handed to her left and right and says to her, the multiverse doesn't need any Superman. It has Supergirl. Well, that's basically what they did with the CW Superman. Then Henry Cavill's Superman gets on his knees, bows before Supergirl and kisses her feet. Let's be honest, if they ever did announce that Henry Cavill was showing up on Supergirl for a cameo, that idea, sadly, is an actual possibility that would cross our minds. It certainly would cross through the CW's and or Arrowverse's producers' minds. Oh no, that's part of the big reason why I never want to see that happen. Never let that happen. Plus, I mean, look, the Ezra Miller thing popping up in Crisis was a fun surprise. It was a fun surprise. It was also ultimately dumb, and they knew it was dumb, but all of Crisis was dumb. The whole crossover event was stupid. It's the first time ever in the Arrowverse that I didn't like the crossover, but it was a very fun surprise. It was a super fun surprise. And it also served a function as a way of saying, hey, everybody, we haven't forgotten about making a Flash movie yet. We'll never talk about Ezra Miller, grabbing a woman by the throat and throwing her to the ground, but we'll never discuss that. But don't forget, we're still making a Flash movie. So, no, I don't think they'll do that with Henry Cavill. And you're absolutely 100%, Andy, right. If Warner Brothers ever hinted that they were interested in, cameoing Cavill's Superman in there, immediately the Arrowverse's producers are, how can we make him job to our Supergirl to make Supergirl look even better? They do that completely because that's what they did to their own Superman. Anyway, Sozin's comment writes, a decade ago, M. Night made me avoid The Last Airbender because I thought the show was as bad as his movie. Thanks to you. Okay, M. Night made you avoid the TV show The Last Airbender because I thought the show was as bad as his movie. Thanks to you, I watched the show last month and I loved it. But I can't help feel disappointed in the middle finger M. Night gave to lifelong fans. Well, no, listen. Here's the problem. Did M. Night do a good job making Avatar The Last Airbender the movie? No, he didn't. Was he giving a middle finger to anybody? No, fuck no, he wasn't. He tried his best. It bothers me when fans, and listen, I'll cop up to this as well. I think I've been guilty of this too, myself. But it does bother me when fans take personal offense to what, a filmmaker making a movie that they didn't like. Right? That they just didn't like. When you look at Avatar The Last Airbender, it's not like he didn't do anything in that movie that was a betrayal of the show or a betrayal of the characters. He tried. He wanted to make, because you're a special kind of stupid if you didn't think that M. Night wanted to make a great movie that people loved. Of course he did. He thought he was the next Spielberg. He wanted to make an Avatar The Last Airbender movie that people were going to celebrate and love and enjoy. And he tried his best to do it. And he failed miserably. The movie's terrible. It is. But it is in no way. There's no decisions in there that was completely, I just did this to bug that. No. You could tell he was trying to make an Avatar The Last Airbender movie. And he tried his best and it didn't work out. Which is a different situation, by the way. We were just talking about, the CW and Superman and Supergirl. Well, they specifically intentionally, turned Superman into a jobber. That's an intentional decision. I don't think there was anything like that in M. Night's Last Airbender. I think he tried and he just failed. But I 100% believe his intentions were to make a movie that audiences would love, that Last Airbender fans would love, and it would be a gift to them and a gift to himself, and it just didn't work. So I don't think Shyamalan was giving anybody the finger. I think he was probably as disappointed as anybody else that just the movie didn't turn out the way that he would hoped people would love it. They didn't, and it's too bad. But I don't think that was him giving a finger to anybody. I really don't. He just failed. All right, Hero Fan Productions writes, hey John, have any of you guys watched Dark on Netflix? Well, we just talked about that. I have never watched it yet. No, but I know a lot of people have, and a lot of people have written in and told me I should give it a shot, and I will at some point. Try out Dark. Finished the third and final season, and this series has become the best show I have ever seen. Complex and convoluted, in favor of the story and its characters. You all need to watch it. Again, well, Rob was just talking about it. He's seen the first couple of seasons. I have been hearing nothing but great things about it from you guys. So I have got it marked down that I'm going to start watching that. Hopefully within the next month or two, I'll have a chance to sit down and start watching it. I got a few things in queue in front of it, but everybody's really getting me turned on to this, Hero Fan. So I am going to do that. Thank you for adding your voice to the growing list of recommendations for it. I appreciate that, man. All right, Estevel writes, what's up, John? I don't know if you've talked about this, but YouTube TV has yet again increased their prices from $50 a month to $65. This is totally outrageous, especially during this pandemic where no major sports are even happening. Any thoughts on it? Yeah, I have addressed this, and it's the totally unpopular opinion. I don't think it's outrageous. Now, I've got issues with YouTube. But to be fair, I don't think that price increase is outrageous. To me, now listen, if you've watched me for any period of time, you know I have tried all the television streaming services. I've tried them all. I did DirecTV's version of it. I did Hulu Live TV's version of it. I did Sling TV. I actually quite like Sling TV. Sling TV is pretty good. I did Sling TV's version of it. I have tried almost every service that streams the live television stuff. I've tried them all. YouTube TV, and I didn't want it to be, but YouTube TV is by far the best one. It is by far the best one. And it by far has the most channels, most selection. You have unlimited DVR. On top of all that, you can go back. Like, for instance, I can't remember what the show was, but Ann and I were going to watch a show. I'm like, wow, I wonder if we search for it, if we'll find old episodes. You search for the show, and it brings up all the previous episodes, too. So I don't even need the DVR, because, I mean, it is a remarkable service. It's great. And believe me, I did not want to like YouTube TV that much because you guys know, I'm even questioning whether or not I want to keep my show, the John Campea Show, on YouTube or not. I've been struggling with that question for like the last almost year. But I got to give credit where it's due. The YouTube TV service is by far and away the best one. And when you consider the service that you're getting for it and all the stuff that's included in it and what you're able to do with that service, I would still contend that while a sudden $15 price jump is steep, if I didn't know it used to be at $50 and you just sat down with me today, total clean mind, and said, this is YouTube TV, you get this, and this, and it has this functionality and this functionality and this functionality, and it can do all this, and the price tag is $65. What would my reaction be? I'm just being honest. My reaction would probably be, okay, that sounds reasonable. I wouldn't say, wow, that sounds like a great deal, but I would say, you know what? Seeing all this functionality and seeing all the options and all the stations that I get and all the things you can do with it, and the fact that I can access it from anywhere at any time on any computer, on my phone, on my tablet, on my TV, blah, 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 and you take all of it in consideration, and then you said to me, the price tag is $65 a month. I would probably look at you and say, okay, yeah, that sounds reasonable. And I really do. I know we want everything for free. I know we want everything to be as cheap as possible. I agree. I do too. But I think if we take a step back and really look at it, I don't think and I'm saying this is somebody who's not the biggest YouTube fan right now. I think it's not an irrational or unreasonable amount of money. The $15 price jump does seem like a rather sudden and steep jump. I agree with that. But at the end of the day, $65, because you got to remember, you're talking to a guy who back in the day used to spend like $120 a month on my cable package before I became a cord cutter. So you're talking to a dude that used to spend like around $120 for my cable package. So I think it's not bad. And I know that's not the popular thing to say. I know the popular thing to say is whenever anybody increases the price, let's act outraged. I get it. And that $15 price jump does seem steep. Not going to disagree. But at the end of the day, I look at the service and see what I'm getting, and then I look at the price tag of $65. I got to say, for me, I don't think that's an unreasonable price tag. It could be cheaper, yeah. It's not a great deal, no, but I think it's reasonable. And I know there are many people who disagree and many people who have other thoughts on that, and I respect that. I do, but that's just kind of my take on it, Esteval. Anyway, here's hoping they don't now suddenly in 3 months jump it up to 80, because then we go from reasonable to maybe getting unreasonable. But anyway, Russell Amador writes, "Hey, John, I got one question. Where are all my Chucky fans at? Anyone out there, or is it just me? Anyways, new teaser trailer for the TV series coming next year with Brad Dourif set to voice the killer doll once again. I'm a fan of the franchise. I'm so hyped." Yeah, listen, I'm not a big fan of the Child's Play franchise. I'm not. I really like the first one, but I haven't been a big fan of it since. I got a bit of a kick out of the latest one, though. The latest movie where Mark Hamill does the voice of Chucky. I got a bit of a kick out of the one, I gotta say. So I'm actually not all that interested in the TV series. But then again, I wasn't interested in Doom Patrol either. And now I love it. So we'll see how it turns out once it comes up. But I haven't seen the new teaser yet. I'll keep my eye open for it. All right, KW Garrett writes, "If there are 10 Best Picture nominees next year and no more 2020 films get released, over under 30% that Bad Boys 3, Sonic, Scoob, and Bloodshot get Best Picture nominations, because that'll be hilarious." Well, I'll tell you what, KW Garrett. The Oscars have already announced that they have changed. So they've moved the Oscars off February, I believe, into March or April. No, they've moved the Oscars to April. And the deadline is not December 31st now. The deadline is mid-February. They've already changed that to make some accommodations for the shifting schedule. But I'll tell you this, if no more movies come out in 2020, they'll just cancel the Oscars for this year. And it'll be unfortunate, and they'll just kind of lump in what few movies did get released this year into the next Oscars. But I just think they simply won't have an Oscars in 2021. If no other movies come out in 2020, that's a big if. But if that were to happen, I just think they would cancel the 2021 Oscars and just ball it all up into a 2022 Oscars. So we'll have to wait and see. All right, Optimus Prime Rib writes, "If/when a COVID vaccine becomes available, will you get it? Many say it is the key to get back to normal without all the fear, but many also think that it will be rushed and unsafe. If too many people don't take it, it could make this last even longer." I mean, it all depends. Listen, if they wanted to rush out a vaccine before it was properly tested and properly scienced, they probably would have had it out already. I think they are going to be very careful and very cautious, and they're going to release it when they believe it's ready to release. At that point, yeah, I'll probably take it. Probably. I might do like I do with my technology. Like when a brand new piece of tech comes out, I wait like 2 weeks. I wait 2 weeks to see if all the people who bought it first start reporting any major problems with it. Then I go, okay. And then I jump in and buy the tech. So what I might do is kind of stay isolated in my home and wait till the first round of people take it and say a couple of weeks pass, everything's good. Okay, then maybe I'll go and take it. So we'll have to wait and see. But I don't know. I haven't sat down to really fully educate myself on it yet because it's still so far away. But as we get closer, I'll try to educate myself on it more. All right, Julius A. Goodwin writes, "This may be a little outside of your area, but have the big movie chains not considered getting a loan from the government to stay in business? I doubt it would be any better for the economy to have another business go under due to COVID-19. I don't think that's an option that's on the table. And I don't think taxpayers would respond. I already think the government gives out too much money to corporations, but I don't think the public would respond really well to tax dollars being given to bail out the industry. Although I think there is a business case for our culture and society to make sure, and for the economy to make sure those businesses stay in business. Because there's going to be a big financial repercussion if those things go under. It might be in our country's best interest if they do stay open and maybe worth a bail, but I don't think that's an option that's on the table right now. Believe me, the theaters would take any handout the government wants to give them. Of course they would take it. But I don't think right now that's an option that's on the table. All right, guys, just time for one or two quick more ones. And even though we're close to the end, but we got to wrap it up here in a second. Mr. Kingtail writes, "With the movie theaters likely staying closed until 2021. By the way, we don't know that that's likely. One analyst is saying that, but I would withhold saying that is likely at this point. I think it's possible. I wouldn't say it's likely. Staying closed until 2021. Do you think there is a chance that drive-in movie theaters make a comeback? The idea seems very plausible. A kiosk system of sorts would even be implemented for tickets and refreshments." Well, listen, we already see Walmart is turning 150 of their parking lots into drive-in theaters. Amazon has started doing pop-up drive-in theaters. Right now, the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, the iconic Rose Bowl, has been turned into a drive-in theater. Ann and I went there the other day. Yeah. Ann and I are planning to go to the drive-in again this weekend. We're going to go see, I think we're going to go see Batman 89 this weekend at the drive-in. So yes, we are already seeing movie theaters making a bit of resurgence. The problem is, does that become permanent? I don't think so. But right now, it's a great option. Ann and I went to go see, what did we go see the other day? I can't remember now. Ann and I went to go to the drive-in the other day, last week, and had a ball. It was the first time Ann ever went to a drive-in theater. Had an absolute blast, and we're looking forward to going again this weekend. All right, last question we'll take today. This one comes to us from Man of Steel, who writes, the other day you mentioned the TV show Airwolf. Anyway, it's Ernest Borgnine, Jan Michael Vincent. Love that theme music. I love watching that show back in the day as well as the A-Team and Knight Rider, but my favorite was The Fall Guy with Lee Majors and Heather Thomas. She was every teenage boy's dream she was. By the way, there was another show in that era, Man of Steel, that no one ever talks about. I think it was called Smith and Smith with the two brothers, and I think they even did a crossover with A-Team or Knight Rider at some point. I can't remember, but Smith and Smith was another one that I really liked and I really enjoyed. The guy one of the actors went on to be Major Dad. And I can't remember the actor's name, but he was really good in that. Anyway, so yes, absolutely. That was a great age for television stuff. Guys, everybody from Ryan Lohner, Troy Kales, Kaiser Soze, James Argenta, and the one or two other that we got to wrap it up because we've hit 2 hours. But do not worry. I'm going to do an open mic tomorrow on Saturday, and we're going to start off our open mic show tomorrow with your questions, and we'll get caught up on those. But for now, guys, that will do it for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this show a part of your day. Don't forget, open mic will be tomorrow. We're going to, those like 5 or 6 questions that we have left over, we'll start off the show tomorrow with those questions. And guys, you can start sending in questions even now for that open mic tomorrow, simply by streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. Special thank you to all of you guys who did send in questions for today's show, because number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported this channel while you did it. And all of us here at this channel, thank you guys for that. A special thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett. He'll of course be back again next week. And thank you to you guys. That will do it for me for now, guys. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and take care of the people around you. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.